Hello again, it's Mark Middleton from Growing Boulder. I hope you and your family are doing well. I'm anxious to have a quick chat about something that most of us don't even like to think about, and that's a problem, folks. So stick with me for just a few minutes on this because there really isn't a more important conversation that we could have, especially right now. There is simply no reason, period, no good excuse for not taking time to think about your future healthcare wishes and making those known to your loved ones. Now, this is the discussion that we certainly should be having these days. I'm talking about advanced care planning, which is simply the process of thinking about what type of healthcare you want and what type of healthcare you don't want in the future. It's a very personal decision, all based upon your personal beliefs, and it's something that we all have to think about, and we have to figure out a way to document it legally. And here to help us understand and begin that process is Helen von Dolteren-Fournier. And Helen, folks, is truly a double threat. She's a respected elder law attorney. She's a certified financial planner. She not only speaks with credibility, but also clarity. She focuses on a holistic view of life planning and all that entails. And here at Growing Boulder, we certainly like that. Helen, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mark. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I think this is an important subject to go over.
It really is. And if I can divert from our script right off the bat, Helen and I were just talking off camera a moment ago about an interesting phenomenon in her industry. And this is happening in all industries. Helen, you were saying that a lot of people are reaching out to you as an attorney, as a financial planner, some older people who had taken their children out of their wills and suddenly they want to put them back in.
Yes, it's very interesting. I find it that because of the crisis and these people are older and they've done their documents maybe 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years ago, all of a sudden they realize that they might actually pass away sooner than later, and they don't want to leave their, daughter, son, grandchild out. They've decided they want to put them back into their estate plans. And by doing that, it's something that they want to do right away. So you have to get the documents drafted, and then you have to find out a way that you can legally get them executed, because a lot of facilities, assisted living, skilled nursing, you can't go inside of them.
So you're making handoffs outside of these facilities.
We are, and we're taking witnesses. We're standing at windows. It's very bizarre because, it's just something I've never, ever had to deal with before.
Strange things happening in every industry. All right, let's show you the 4 documents that Helen wants to talk about, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper into each one. These are documents, folks, that we should all know about and we should all understand and execute. We're talking about a healthcare surrogate, a living will, a HIPAA release authority, and an emergency contact paper. So, Helen, let's start with what is the difference between an advanced health directive, a healthcare surrogate, and a living will, because I think a lot of us get those confused.
Sure. What I like to say is the advanced health directive is a healthcare umbrella. So it's the umbrella that sits over the top of your healthcare surrogate, which is basically just your power of attorney for healthcare matters, where you get to decide who's going to make your decisions when you're no longer able to make your decisions. Then the second document is a living will that says if you're both mentally and physically incapacitated and both your doctor and another attending physician say there's no medical probability of you living, do you want heroic measures or life support? That's your living will. And then the third document, of course, would be any kind of organ donation document. Now, the HIPAA release authority gives the medical either facility or the doctor permission to give your information to your healthcare surrogate. So it's another piece of paper that you have to actually fill out and sign. And then the last document is the emergency contact, where you can go on to the state of Florida's Department of Motor Vehicle and put in your emergency information should you be in an accident or show up at the emergency room.
All right, we'll talk a little bit more about those, but folks, please don't be overwhelmed by this. Our intention today is really just to help you begin the conversation if you haven't. I think everybody who has done this immediately is relieved once it's done. And I can tell you, it is not very difficult and it's not very expensive. Helen, why are some people hesitant to give their agent, as you call them, their proxy, their health care information right now, because it seems to be a no-brainer?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people, when they're reading the document, in the state of Florida, when you initial everything and get it witnessed, it takes effect immediately. So a lot of principals, the people who are signing the document, are just nervous that they'll no longer have the ability to make their own healthcare decisions. And that's totally incorrect. That as long as you're able, you can make decisions. And the best part is that person who you've assigned as your healthcare power of attorney, if they rubbed you the wrong way, you can revoke it and you can do a new one.
Just like you can bring your children back into your will if you want, you can remove your health proxy if you want. All right, so what about the HIPAA privacy rule? Why is that important, and how does that fit under this umbrella that you're describing?
Sure. HIPAA, of course, is a Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, and it's a federal law that was put into place to provide better access to health insurance, but also to give you privacy for your health information. So if you don't have the HIPAA release information or the HIPAA release language in your documents, even though you have named your healthcare surrogate or your healthcare power of attorney, they wouldn't be able to get the information from the doctor or the hospital. This gives them think of it as the get out of free jail card, where they'll release the information to who you want it released to.
That's really a good point, because I think a lot in the healthcare industry, and rightly so, are afraid to move forward and make any decisions for anybody, no matter the situation. So if you don't have this HIPAA document signed, your doctor may say, I can't do that. Is that right?
That's correct. That's correct.
So when is a living will required or needed? What's that about?
Well, the living will, people will ask me, do I have to sign a living will? Can I just not sign the living will? And I try to get them to consider the fact that none of us know when we're going to die or how we're going to die. So I personally don't want to be hooked up to life support. I always tease, I say, listen, I want to eat vegetables. I don't want to be a vegetable. So a living will is the document that tells the doctor, your surrogate, tells your family what you want to do should you become physically and mentally incapacitated and unable to make decisions, and that your doctors say that there's no probability of coming back. So a living will is just a way to tell people today, while you're fully capable, what you want to have happen down the road.
Folks, excuse me, we are talking to Helen von Dolteren-Fournier, who is both an elder law attorney and a certified financial planner. And if you don't have the documents that she's talking about and you're still listening to us, then good on you. Congratulations, because that's really what we're trying to do now, is just, make you familiar with the documents that you need, and make you comfortable with the conversation that everybody, no matter your age, everybody needs to have this conversation, and everybody needs to make these decisions for themselves and then share that information with your loved one, because not only will it help you feel better, it will help them feel better. It will remove a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. So let me talk about the Advanced Care Directive, if we can. Helen, can you tell us a little bit more about that and how that works?
Yeah, so whenever we use the term Advanced Care Directive, it's just basically the umbrella. Advanced Care Directive means the healthcare surrogate, which is a power of attorney for medical decisions in your living will. So that person is basically going to step into your shoes if for some reason you can't make a decision, or you're not mentally and physically able to make a decision right there and then. So you can list, you don't have to list just one person. You can list, 3, 4, 5 people that the emergency room doctor or the emergency room staff would call should you be in some type of an accident and you need some kind of medical assistance.
And we hear about DNRs all the time. What is the DNR, and why do we need that?
Sure. So do not resuscitate is a special form in the state of Florida. It cannot just be executed by me as the principal. My doctor also has to agree that I have certain conditions that a DNR would be a document that I should consider having. And if I do have it, it's printed on, a yellow sheet of paper. It's posted on your refrigerator. There are certain things about a DNR, but you really have to be, medically needing not to be resuscitated from, cardiac arrest or something like that. That's a very strong document to have.
It's a really good point, and I think it brings up another question about, making sure that once you have these documents, that anybody in the healthcare industry that might see you under any circumstance, knows about it. We've done stories on men or women who actually tattooed DNR on their chest, and on their back they tattooed roll over, just to make sure that the doctors saw their wishes. How can we make certain that the healthcare industry knows what we want or don't want?
Yeah. So what I would do, and not just to the DNR, but what I would do is I would take the healthcare surrogate, the living will, and I would make sure that everybody, including the doctors I visit, any of the hospitals I go to, that they have a copy of it. But then I would also go to your website and get the information about putting the emergency contact information on my driver's license. Because when somebody goes into the emergency room, the few things they look for is they look for the driver's license and they look for the health insurance card. So by having all of those documents with your driver's license, your emergency contact, and to have it with your health insurance, they'll be able to find out what your wishes are, in addition to contacting the person that you want them to contact.
Great information. I've got two more questions if you'll bear with us here for a second, Helen. We mentioned earlier, obviously COVID-19 attacks older people more than younger people that have, compromised immune systems, people that are battling other issues. But that said, we're not talking just to older people now, because everybody should have this paperwork. And here in Florida, when your child turns 18, they're now an adult. Tell us why they need that then.
Yeah, and I always, whenever anybody I know, whenever their child turns 18, as a happy birthday, I do their documents for them, because the 18-year-old's going to go off to, University of Florida, UCF, wherever they're going, but they're legally divorced from their parents. So if something happens, if there's a medical episode and the parent needs to get involved, they don't have any legal authority to get involved, and they can't talk to the doctor, they can't get information because of the HIPAA, the federal law. So I try to get everyone to think, when the child turns 18, get them to sign their healthcare documents, the living will if you want to, but the HIPAA release, and put their contact information on their driver's license for sure.
And finally, at the risk of taking this too far, but again, folks, this is very easy. Doesn't take much money, just a little bit of thought. A lot of us have grandkids that come and visit us. Now, if I'm the parent of a child, my child's going to go visit his grandparent in another state, and my child has an issue that needs some sort of health care. What can we do to make certain that our wishes are followed?
Yeah, in the state of Florida, which is where I practice law, in the state of Florida, we actually have a healthcare surrogate for a minor child that I try to get everyone to fill out. The child's going to, camp, the child's going to visit grandma, the child's going to go visit their favorite Auntie Helen, whoever it is, to be sure that if there's an emergency room trip, there's not an issue with it.
Well, that's great news and great information, Helen. Before we let you go, is there anything else that we need to know? Have we covered it, do you think?
I think we've covered it well, Mark. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time, folks. That's Helen von Dolteren-Fournier. And if you go to our website, growingbolder.com/COVID, we will have links to her website, contact information. She said she'd be more than happy to continue the discussion with you if you have an interest or need more information. And also a reminder that Growing Bolder and Florida Blue Medicare are now partnering to provide you tools, tips, resources, inspiration, everything we can. And you can find it all at growingbolder.com/COVID as well. And be sure to check out Growing Bolder and Florida Blue Medicare's Facebook pages for daily updates. Helen von Dolteren-Fournier, elder law attorney, certified financial planner, and a really, really smart and gracious woman. Thank you for your time, Helen. And folks, we'll look for you right here next time.
Thank you.